Your name is not your name. It has not been your name for 11 years. The one printed on your license, the one that appears in databases maintained by strangers in buildings you will never enter, that is a fiction, a placeholder. The truth is a series of silences and erased footprints. A life that only exists where someone else chooses to acknowledge it. For most people, identity is skin deep, written on birth certificates and credit cards. For you, identity is a weapon, and weapons are only useful when you control them completely. You remember the email as if it happened yesterday, although the memory is over a decade old. No greeting, no signature, just a date, a time, an address in Northern Virginia, and one instruction. Tell no one. You almost deleted it. The formatting was too precise, too clinical, too deliberately sterile to be accidental spam. You searched the address. Commercial office park. No website, no client list, no reviews. An office that existed on paper and nowhere else. On the day specified, you drove there in civilian clothes, the weight of indecision in your chest. The office was on the 3rd floor, a door unlocked as if it expected you. Inside, a man sat at a metal desk. Polo shirt, reading glasses. He did not stand. He gestured toward the empty chair. Your name, he said, like you'd known it for years. Not your rank, not your title, just you. You obeyed. You sat. The conversation began as a casual interview and became a reckoning. He asked about your deployments, but not the ones in the official files. He asked about Mosul, the Handra that burned a meeting site. The interrogation at Brem where you reported the truth against orders. The night in Baghdad when 11 minutes of decisions kept 4 people alive. He knew, not from paperwork, not from a badge or a clearance, from sources you could not, and still cannot, identify. And he wanted you. He described a unit, never by name, its work invisible to the world. Operations where even Tier 1 special operators could not go. A unit that found the targets before the shooters arrived, that slipped into rooms months ahead of any strike team. He offered you a life that would consume relationships, erase personal histories, and measure success in absences. He offered you a life that would never appear on paper, except temporarily, to be read and then burned. You asked questions. What is it called? Unavailable. What will I do? Unavailable. What happens if I say yes? You disappear from the Army system. Your family gets a plausible story. Your chain of command receives a cryptic notice of reassignment, and they do not ask further questions. You said yes. You still cannot explain why. Perhaps because he knew Baghdad. Perhaps because honesty was more persuasive than any pitch. Perhaps because the truth about the work was more compelling than glory. 3 weeks later, your apartment lease ended. Belongings in storage? You rode in a van with blacked-out windows toward a facility that GPS could not locate. The signal jammed at the gate. You arrived, and training began. 14 months of sharpening your mind as a weapon. Physical conditioning was necessary, but not the point. The point was precision pattern recognition, the ability to anticipate human and technological behavior in environments that wanted to kill you. You learned surveillance detection like a second language, 67 decision points over a 4-hour urban walk. Rotating patterns that made your presence unpredictable. You learned to recognize hostile tails by the angle of a shoulder, the timing of a step, the imperceptible tension in a wrist. You learned disguise, not Hollywood prosthetics. Functional alteration, a stone in a shoe to change gait, a hat to distort face geometry, glasses to shift perception. You could become 3 distinct people in 90 seconds in a public restroom. Technical surveillance was a language you mastered, placing collection devices in rooms you entered for fewer than 45 seconds. Cloning a mobile phone's data by standing 6 feet from the target in a cafe, compromising a laptop through a charging cable left in a hotel room where housekeeping was unaware she was aiding an operation. Portable antennas disguised as electronics, frequency hopping, geolocation accurate to 3 meters from a passing car. Signals intelligence turned your previous Army work into child's play. Languages came next. Your 2 existing tongues sharpened to native fluency. A 3rd added operational competency, a 4th conversational. Idiom, slang, accent, cultural reference. Every detail corrected 6 hours a day until no one could detect you were foreign. You learned human recruitment. Not coercion over months, but reading a person in a single conversation, finding their levers, greed, ideology, revenge, fear, vanity. You learn to pull the correct lever, then vanish. 12 candidates entered the pipeline. 9 graduated. 1 failed for a security violation too minor to comprehend. 2 returned to their parent services, forever barred from speaking of what they learned. 9 remained, scattered across embassies, military bases, and commercial fronts in 8 countries. Your first deployment was a surprise. Commercial cover in a South Asian capital. A life manufactured to perfection. The embassy knew of you only in passing. 1 phone number to call in case of operational intersection, a conversation guaranteed unpleasant if protocols were ignored. Your target was not terrorists, not insurgents, but a network moving components for weapons programs. Engineers, logisticians, shipping agents, front companies, and falsified certificates. You mapped every node, recruited 2 assets. 1 motivated by money, the other by conscience. Both kept you awake. 1 because of risk, the other because of sincerity. You filed intelligence through an invisible system, encrypted and segregated. No database held a record of your work. When the operation concluded, no commendations, no evaluation, only the satisfaction that something dangerous had not happened, quietly prevented. You returned home through commercial channels, backstopped by cover passports. Debriefing lasted 11 consecutive days. You slept poorly afterward. Not every night, but enough that vigilance became instinct. Your identity, your body, your reflexes, trained to respond to threat even when threat no longer existed. You were elevated to planning after several deployments, designing operations instead of executing them. You became the ghost behind the curtain, seeing patterns invisible to those in the field, orchestrating risk for others while your own life remained compartmented. Now, as you sit in a rental car in a European capital, watching a man eat breakfast 60 meters away, you feel the weight of every invisible step you have taken. If you die in the next 40 minutes, your family will be told of a heart attack at a U.S. military installation. Your work will remain unseen, unrecorded, unacknowledged. And yet it matters. Always matters. Because everything you prevented, every attack that never occurred, every weapons program disrupted those absences. Your hand rests on the door handle. The world continues, oblivious. You exist in the interstice. You have always existed there, and you will continue to do so. You wake before dawn. The city is quiet, unaware of the observation patterns you've memorized. 67 decision points, for hours, countless variables. 1 misstep, and a tailing team notices. 1 miscalculation, and your cover, your identity, your life, is compromised. You are no longer the person you were in the army. You are a tool. Your mind is sharpened to anticipate, analyze, and exploit. Your body is a delivery system. Together, they are lethal. Training is relentless, but surgical. You do not run until your legs burn, or lift weights until sweat blinds you. You move, you observe, you calculate. You learn the rhythm of urban life, buses, taxis, office workers, police patrols. You map microbehaviors, the angle of a shoulder, a hand brushing a pocket, the cadence of a step, and deduced purpose, intent, threat. You walk the same city streets in rotating patterns, so complex that even your shadow is unpredictable. You become untraceable, an echo across concrete and steel. Disguise is a science, not cosmetic, not theatrical, functional. A stone in your shoe shifts gait. A hat, glasses, a posture adjustment subtly alters every geometric line of your face. Within 90 seconds in a public restroom, you become 3 different people, each one a shell that can survive observation, infiltration, extraction. Cameras, human eyes, even the memories of those who glance at you, register the wrong person. You test these disguises endlessly, moving through crowds, observing reactions, adjusting minutiae. Every failure is analyzed, every success logged in your mind. Technical tradecraft is a second language. Signals, data, surveillance. You plant collection devices in rooms for less than a minute, unnoticed. Clone a mobile phone's contents in a cafe without detection. Compromise a laptop through a charging cable in a hotel room where housekeeping is unwittingly an asset. Portable antennas hide as personal electronics. Frequencies hop. Geolocation tracks a single phone to 3 meters from a moving car. Every skill is a tool to reach information no one is meant to have, to act in shadows no one is meant to see. Languages come next. Your existing fluency is sharpened to native perfection. Idioms, slang, cultural inflection, humor, all calibrated. A third language added at operational level, a fourth for casual conversation. You repeat phrases 6 hours a day with native speakers correcting accent, syntax, and idiom selection. By the end, you are indistinguishable from a local. Your cover life airtight. Human assets are recruited with the precision of an algorithm. You read psychological architecture in minutes. Greed, ideology, revenge, fear, vanity. You identify the lever that will move them and the window in which it is safe to pull. One mistake could end the operation. One misjudgment could cost lives. And yet, you must vanish immediately afterward. Assets you trust may die because their survival depends on operational calculus, not loyalty. You accept this. You understand it, but your mind does not process the emotional toll immediately. That comes later, in flashes. Your first deployment is under a corporate cover, telecommunications equipment company, commercial office, legitimate business cards, colleagues who believe in your fabricated history. The embassy knows only your existence and that your operations must remain untouched. The phone number is your lifeline. A single call, a single conversation, and the consequences of failure could spiral into diplomatic disaster. Every day, you navigate a city where cameras track every move. Plainclothes officers, shadow foreigners, and unregistered phones are a red flag. The environment is hostile. You are alone. Your target is a proliferation network. Engineers, logisticians, shipping agents, front companies, falsified end-user certificates, warehouses, shipping containers. Your mission is to map every node, identify facilitators, follow financial channels, recruit assets, and return intelligence that can disrupt the network, all without detection. Every action must appear innocuous, every question framed as professional curiosity. Every smile, handshake, and nod carries operational weight. You observe for weeks. The driver of a target stands out, military plates, running personal errands during duty hours. You map patterns, alternating routes, transport modes, timing, until a schedule emerges. You photograph stops with concealed cameras, document warehouses, track arrivals and departures. You never follow the same route twice. You never appear in the same location twice. You become the city, a shadow threading its streets, observing without being observed. You recruit to assets. 1. A shipping coordinator, motivated by money. You pay him with funds that exist nowhere else. 1. A junior scientist, motivated by conscience. His sincerity unnerves you. He takes risk voluntarily, aware of what it could cost him. You do not sleep for nights imagining what could go wrong. And when extraction is necessary, the operational calculus is brutal. The scientist may be captured. You cannot prevent it. You do not ask. You leave. For months pass in this meticulous, invisible tension. Signals, reports flow through networks designed to evade detection. No database retains your presence. No colleague, no agency, no niche state. You return home with your cover intact, resign through legitimate channels, debrief for 11 days. Every memory is cataloged, every lesson stored. Sleep is difficult. Not every night, but often enough that vigilance is reflex. Your body reacts to vehicles at 2 a.m., to shadows that might conceal danger. You are trained to respond before conscious thought, and it never leaves you. You emerge from the first deployment changed. Emotional range contracted. Intensity reserved for operations. Human connections are superficial. You feel something genuine when a woman's hand brushes yours across a restaurant table, but it is buffered by distance. You leave for 5 months, return to voicemails of confusion and hurt. You note the loss without fully processing it. It does not hurt enough to register. This is by design, a protective mechanism. Survival requires emotional compartmentalization. By the end of the first deployment, you understand the rhythm of operational life. Preparation, insertion, collection, extraction, decompression. Each cycle sharpens your mind, expands your awareness, calibrates your instincts. Every action carries stakes. Every observation is data. Every relationship is secondary. You know the work matters. The world outside may never notice. It may never understand. But that is irrelevant. You do this because you can, because someone must, and because the consequences of failure are intolerable. Your life is a paradox, full of action, full of purpose, yet invisible, imperceptible, unreal. You have stepped into the interstice between existence and erasure. And in that space, you have discovered a rhythm, a life that consumes everything, yet produces nothing recognizable. You are alone, and yet part of something immense, something no one can see, something that matters. The city awakens. You step into it again, unnoticed. Each footfall measured, each glance catalogued, the game has begun. And you know it will never end. You no longer touch the field, the city streets, the back alleys, the hotels, the cafes, all have been replaced by a room without windows, a bank of monitors, and streams of intelligence flowing from 7 countries. Your hands hover over a keyboard, not to collect, but to design, to orchestrate. You have seen the dangers, survived them, and now you construct paths that others will walk while you remain unseen. You understand the architecture of counterintelligence in a way no field operator could. 8 years being hunted teaches you the limits of human vigilance, the patterns of procedural assumptions, the blind spots of even the most capable adversaries. You know where they will look, where they will trust their instincts, where they will over-rely on protocol. You exploit every weakness. Your mind draws a lattice across nations, operations, and targets. Every risk is quantified, every exposure mitigated. Every operation designed for maximum effect with minimum visibility. Your operators execute your plans. Young intelligence professionals hardened through field cycles, move through cities you have mapped and memorized in your mind. They do not know your full career, nor do they need to. They follow the architecture you've constructed, a web of invisible strings connecting safe houses, assets, and observation points across continents. Your judgment is the lens through which their work exists. If they survive, it is because you anticipated the danger before it existed. If they succeed, it is because you designed a sequence too precise to fail. Budgets exist only as line items that vanish after review. Operations are authorized with codes that disappear, records shredded or encrypted into oblivion. When satellites report anomalies, analysts think they see routine movement. When shipments are delayed, customs officials assume bureaucratic error. The intelligence they rely on appears to originate from systems, satellites, or signals. The human risk, the calculation that shaped the outcome, remains invisible. Promotion does not exist here. Titles are meaningless. Operational rank is determined by comprehension, by endurance, by understanding both the field and the architecture behind it. You are elevated because you have survived, because you have been hunted, because you have lost assets and learned their value and their cost. You have inhabited dozens of identities across dozens of countries, each one fading into rumor when you leave. You are both absent and omnipresent, a ghost threading through global events, leaving only impact, never trace. Every operation carries its own texture. European capitals, where threat is electronic, require technical mastery. Conflict zones, where threat is physical, demand immediate improvisation, insertion, observation, extraction. Each mission compresses months into days, days into hours, hours into minutes. Your nervous system processes these stages identically. Preparation, constant management of fear, collection, extraction, decompression, and then the cycle begins again. You have authorized operations that shape policy, disrupt weapons programs, and protect lives, all while the world attributes outcomes to satellites, signals intelligence, or conventional surveillance. Your work is invisible, by design. The fewer who understand the human element, the fewer opportunities for exposure. You live in the shadow of absence, and absence leaves no trace. There are times, rarely, when the human cost rises out of abstraction. An asset betrayed, a network node compromised, an innocent caught in the calculus of operational necessity. You receive cryptic notifications, designation, date, one word, compromised, that is all. You do not know the aftermath. You do not ask. To dwell would be to lose clarity. To feel would risk operational effectiveness. And yet the face appears in the space between sleep and waking, a fragment of conscience you cannot erase. You have trained dozens of operators in your methods. They speak languages fluently, read people in minutes, manipulate environment and perception. But each one carries the burden you once carried. Isolation, moral compression, emotional recalibration. You recognize it in their eyes, in their measured movements. You have been there. You have been hunted. You have lost friends whose deaths no one will ever acknowledge. You have made choices that were mathematically necessary, morally ambiguous, and emotionally devastating. You understand it, and it isolates you in a way no social interaction can breach. After 15 years, the most senior operational position is offered. Not a promotion, a request. Oversee global operations. Control a budget that exists only in a parallel ledger. Authorize deployments where discovery would create geopolitical crises. Accept the responsibility of sending humans into environments that may kill them. Knowing the intelligence produced justifies the risk. You accept you cannot return to conventional military life. You cannot pretend the previous 15 years never existed. You accept because no other path would be honest. You direct operations across continents from this room without windows. You are everywhere and nowhere. Reports reach you in encrypted, invisible streams. Decisions must be made instantly, risks quantified before they exist. Operators trust your judgment implicitly. Nations unknowingly rely on the intelligence you shape. And still, no commendation, no ceremony, no public acknowledgement. You are thanked quietly, reminded repeatedly. Everything remains classified until death. Sleep is measured, restorative. Not every night, but enough to sustain function. Yet vigilance remains. An unfamiliar vehicle at 2:00 a shadow across the window. A message with embedded signal patterns all provoke automatic response. Muscle memory, reflex, instinct, sharpened for decades, never dormant. This is adaptation, not malfunction. Your body serves no purpose now except to remind you of what it was designed to survive. Your career is invisible. Publicly, you are a consultant, mundane, boring, accurate enough to end curiosity. You have no dinner stories. Your legacy exists only in absence. Attacks prevented, weapons programs disrupted, lives saved quietly. You are the calculus behind events the public cannot perceive. The absence of catastrophe is your only trace. And yet, you understand the importance. Without you, the gaps in global intelligence would be catastrophic. With you, everything continues uninterrupted. You think occasionally of the first email, the man in the polo shirt, the 4-hour conversation that rewrote your life. You remember Baghdad, Mosul, the decisions that kept others alive. You remember being offered a life that would consume every personal relationship, that would require constant reinvention, constant vigilance, total emotional recalibration. You said yes. You do not fully understand why. They never do. But you have survived, adapted, and mastered the work. You have become the ghost in the machinery, the architect of invisible operations. Somewhere, another young intelligence professional receives the same email. She hesitates, doubts, wonders if she should ignore it. The formatting is too precise to be accidental. She will enter a chair across a metal desk. The conversation will unfold. She will hear language deliberately vague, but understand exactly what it means. And she will say yes, just as you did, for reasons she may never understand. You remain watching patterns unfold across 7 countries. Invisible, indispensable, absent. Everything you have done is a secret. Everything you will do is a shadow. Your legacy is the prevention of events the world cannot perceive. The world will never know you existed, and that is exactly how it must be.